Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. So today I will be showing you guys how you can make your very own oil lamp wicks by using a little bit of cotton yarn and a plain old cookie sheet for your loom. So let's go ahead and get started. I am just loading up my yarn onto my cookie sheet here. These are going to be called the warps. So you have your warp. They help hold up your strand. They're what attached to your weaving loom, or in this case, just a single strand, attaching it to itself over a cookie sheet, just making kind of just a large band there, so that way I can prep my loom. You want to make sure that you have room to stick your fingers underneath as well as on top, but definitely make sure that your strands are nice and tight. I have found that it'll take about 16 strands to make at least the size wick that I need. And once you figure out how wide your oil lamp burner is going to be, you want to double the strands required, because again, you know, some of these pieces are going to lay behind and some of them are going to lay on top. So when you pull it tight, it will be half the size as what you started with. Now there are two ways that you can tie off your loom pieces, and I'm just wanting, it's gonna look like I've got one single strand of yarn that I'm working with for the white here. I just want to have one strand of white appearing throughout my work. So to do that, I'm actually going to take my strands and make it twice over. So I'm just attaching this, tie a square knot, and then you can attach a sliding knot. Just kind of come in this way, make sure everything's nice and snug there. Right, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to come into the strand that's closest to my work over here. I like to go right to left when I'm loading these looms, then my threads stay behind, and then I'm not trying to fight the other side with trying to put my threads. Just going to make sure that's nice and tight. Okay, I am happy with that. And there are several ways that you can tie off your work. I like using square knot, but again, if you are working with several different colors of threads, doing a square knot is easy, or you can just make a loop, wrap again, make another loop, kind of like what I did here. So this is going to be my 2 warps of white, but it will produce only one single strand of white in my work. So I'm just going to keep going, move that to my center. There we go. I'm going to finish this off. Got my green, red, green. My bird's playing. She's like, "What are you doing, Ellie?" "Yeah, what am I doing? Am I being silly again?" Got my red. My green. And my red. Again, make sure everything stays nice and tight, because when you start weaving, things will start moving around on you. So the tighter, the better. I recounted and found out I was a strand short. So I went ahead to finish my pattern and added my green strand out here. So now my warp is finally finished. Now I'm going to go ahead and start my weaving part. So this is my shuttle. It holds my weft. Now what's awesome about this is as you go, it helps dispense how much thread you need at a time, or I should say how much weft you need, and locks everything into place so that way you don't have a really big mess. I've already tied just a little knot up here on my very first strand. So then I will be using a plain old crochet hook as my shed. Now the part of the shed, its job is to keep your warp or your threads that are attached to your loom. It will help keep those separated out so you know what side you are on. So I'm just going to take my green and I'm going to go every other one of my green, but I can't cross and overlap my threads down here. They need to stay in that exact order. So under, over my red, under my green, over my red, under my green, over my red, under my green. This is going to be that one strand that I want to have throughout my whole pattern, but I've got my two threads or two warps there. But I'm going to keep my pattern under that white, over the red, and I'm just going to keep going. Now this is going to separate everything out. So now I have my green on top and my red to the back. But you can tell I've just got that one strand of white that's going to stay consistent throughout the whole project. So let's go ahead and get started and show you guys what we're going to do. Because when I go ahead and pull this tight, my thread is only going to be half as wide, or my wick's only going to be half as wide as what I start out with. And again, that is because you're going to have some threads that fall behind and some that are going to be on top. And this is called a double weave. So, alright, so my very first thread on this side is going to go under, over, 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 and I missed the green, under, over. Okay, so that's going to pattern it out to where you're going to have a switch. So in between there, you're going to pull your green on top, you're going to pull your red on top. So here we go. Got my shuttle going through all the reds and under that one white. I'm going to go ahead and pull it so it stays nice and snug. Right now I'm going to use my crochet hook for my shed. Pull all the greens forward. Take my shuttle, go under all my greens. And then we're going to start pulling everything together. I want to still keep everything nice and flat, but I want everything to be tight as well. Okay, and there's the first part of the pattern. I'm going to go ahead and bring you in a little bit closer so you can see what's going on. Now, I have a hard time being able to talk and work at the same time. I'm not coordinated like that. So I'll bring you in, maybe you can see it a little bit better. So part of the design of the shed really helps to keep your layers separated, but in the order that they lie on your loom. So I've got my red that's under, and I've got my green that's over. So my under, over, but it stays in that exact pattern and nothing is overlapping where it shouldn't be. So everything stays in its exact order on my cookie sheet loom here. So it keeps things from getting all screwed up. Now because I'm always working from my left to my right, at least that's where my starting point is of my red thread right here, what happens is the red thread that's next to my green, which is this thread right here, it ends up doing this really cool twisting pattern to where you twist the pieces together, where one kind of pulls up and overlaps the other, but it's also secured by my white wefting that I've got here. I hope you guys can see that all right. And there, my camera clears up for you. So I get my twist pattern, but I get it secured. Now because this is two different layers of material here, I've got my red threads and I've got my green threads. Those actually alternate back and forth, so when my red's on top, I have green underneath. So they alternate back and forth, but they still produce only one single band. So this is where you have that double weaving pattern. This is why you need twice as much thread to start with as what your finished product will be, because you are double layering your work as you go. My bird just thinks I'm silly, trying to talk and do this at the same time. You think I'm silly, you're just tripping, little bird. So I'm going to pull up my red, push my green downwards, take my red, let my green fall off there, grab my red, over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. Oops, I've got too many threads pulled over there, and I can see that by how my crochet hook is laying. So now I need to make sure I straighten that out. Red, greens, okay. Everything is in their rightful order. They're all straight. They're exactly where they need to be. All right, so now I don't have any bubbling or any other issues in my work that's going to throw off my pattern. Put my shuttle through there. Shuttle in my weft. Pull that snug. That stays nice and secure. Change my shed to my greens, make sure those are all up. Run my shuttle back through. And then tighten that down. There we go. Got that nice and straight. I'm going to start again. Red on top, green, red, green, red, green, red, green, green. Keeping my one white strand in the center, which is really two white strands. Okay, put my shuttle through. It's getting kind of tight for my fingers. Now this wants to make my green a little bit long in the middle, so I am going to go ahead and pull up my red threads a little bit more. I'm going to push on my green threads up close to hopefully straighten that green line back out again. There we go, that looks a little bit better. Lift up my green shed on my warps. Throw my shuttle through for my weft. Then pull everything nice and snug. Alright, so as I am getting close to the bottom here, I am going to go ahead and take my weaving and just push it upwards over my cookie sheet loom. Just like that. It's going to put my weaving to the back of my cookie sheet, and then I have a whole new spot where I can start over and keep going. Now it's time to change tactics here. So I have gone as far as my fingers will let me go. That's really tight and I don't have much room there to pull my shuttle through. And I'm at the beginning of where I first started, and I've just got that little bit left to go, but I can still get a good use out of that. So I don't want to cut this off yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my shuttle and cut some of my weft off. So I'm going to cut it a little bit longer here. Now I'm going to switch up and use a needle. Now this needle has a ball point on the end of it, which is really awesome. I don't remember what this tool is actually called. So basically any yarn needle will work for this next process. That will get you a little bit more length out of what is left of your warp. So I'm just going to go ahead and go as far as I can with my weaving needle, and then we'll go from there. I have gone as far as my yarn, my warp will allow me to go. So I'm already going to remove my needle, removing my crochet hook shed, so I don't need that anymore. Next, I need to tie this off the same way that I started it. So I've got my first thread right there. going to take my weft. I'm going to go ahead and just tie a knot just like so, and that's going to hopefully keep my weft all the way through this. Now, one of the things that you can do from here is you need to go ahead and remove it from your cookie sheet loom. And what you can do is when you go ahead and cut this, you can cut it 2 strands at a time and then tie the strand that's right next to it together, and that will keep everything in place so they don't slide apart. Because at this point there's going to be nothing to keep everything separated, so you can just cut 2 at a time and then tie them together. Or what I'm going to do is just kind of cut this like so, and then you can see how we've got those 2 patterns in there. Now this can come apart because again there's nothing securing it. So what I'm planning on doing for mine is I'm just going to go ahead and dunk the ends in some wax, so that will help secure those together and keep it from fraying and coming apart, because again there's nothing to secure those in place. They're just kind of sitting amongst each other. So if you are worried about having your ends come apart, that's something you might want to consider, either just tying the knots together or dipping the end in wax to be kind of a cap to hold everything secure there for you. I'm going to go ahead and cut this so I don't need my tail anymore. And I'm going to go ahead and cut all those knots off that held everything together. And here we have our finished wick. So now we are at the last bit of our work. It's time to do a burn test. Now I'm pretty sure you will never see a wick that looks this crazy in a store anywhere. So that's another reason why I chose these colors, so you can see that not faking any of this. Got my wick primed, got it cut in half, so I've got it loaded. It's ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and wind this down. Wanted to make sure you guys could really see it's the same exact goofiness. It's a little darker from the lamp oil. But let's go ahead and give this a good light. It's gonna start burning this thing. And there you go. As you can see, it does burn, and it does very, very well. Very pleased with this. So if you guys like this video, you can be sure to come back for more tips and tricks later on. And definitely, if you need some more information on how to do some cool stuff, let me know. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. But for now, you guys have a great one, and I shall see you guys later. Bye now.